Call the meeting to order. Ask the clerk to call the roll.
Mayor Williams.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Marshburn.
Present.
Councilmember Behringer.
Here.
Councilmember Kennedy.
Here.
Councilmember Singleton.
Here.
And Councilmember Vance.
Here.
I now call on Councilmember Vance to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us all stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. I'm going to call on Councilmember Marshburn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If you're following your agenda, you'll know that the invocation is our next item of business, and it is my great and distinct pleasure to have Dr. David Forbes, who is the pastor emeritus of the Christian Faith Baptist Church and is former dean of the Divinity School at Shaw University. I had the privilege of knowing Dr. Forbes as a neighbor of mine, and then he moved out of the neighborhood, and we've remained close friends over time. So, Dr. Forbes, would you please do the honor and come and lead us in our invocation this evening?
The Holy Scriptures note that we ought always pray, even in the context of civility, that those of us who respect faith and the Lord bow our heads in prayer. Dear God of many names, known by many signs and symbols throughout this beautiful world, we pause at this singular celebration to invoke thy blessings upon our mayor-elect, and upon these our chosen town leaders and town administration and staff. O God, we pray for our beloved town of Garner and each of our precious citizens. We pray that your blessings rest upon this council and our elected leadership, to the end that they be endowed with the ability and will to confront the many challenges that will inevitably come before them. We pray that they ardently pursue the best interest of our exceptional community. Grant to our town council and to our leadership a commitment to all of our citizenry and all interest of our town. And finally, let there be peace and harmony in each of us throughout Ghana. In the name of all that is holy, amen.
Amen.
Thank you, sir. We will now begin the induction process, beginning with Councilmember Marshburn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll come down to the podium. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great honor to have this gentleman come and swear me in this evening. This is for a while, but he was one of my bosses years ago, and well known on the federal courts. He's doing me a special.
Mayor-elect, it's my pleasure. Well,
all of you who are in leadership.
Okay. We have to get this protocol right. Are we good now?
Left hand on the Bible, raise your right hand,
Yes, sir.
and repeat after me.
Yes, sir.
I, Ken Marshman,
I, Ken Marshburn,
do solemnly and sincerely swear
do solemnly and sincerely swear
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States,
that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance
that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance
to the state of North Carolina
to the state of North Carolina
and to the constitutional powers and authorities
and to the constitutional powers and authority
which are or may be established
which are or may be established
for the government thereof,
for the government thereof,
that I will endeavor to support,
that I will endeavor to support,
maintain, and defend the Constitution
maintain, and defend the Constitution
and laws of said state,
and laws of said state,
not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States,
not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States,
to the best of my knowledge and ability,
to the best of my knowledge and ability,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of my office as mayor.
of my office as mayor.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Welcome.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
For those of you who may not know, this is my beautiful, lovely wife who's been my helpmate now for 45 years, and I just wanted to thank her in public, and she's holding a Bible that means a lot to all of us. Thank you very much.
Done.
I'll introduce Jennifer Knox. She's a former district court judge, but many years before that, we went to high school together, and she was at least 1 year ahead of me.
1 year.
1 year. And she was a fantastic athlete and leader. She continued to do that throughout her career, and I've always looked up to her for her sense of justice and hard work and fairness, and so it's my pleasure to have her swear me in tonight.
But it was not many years ago.
It was.
If you please place your left hand on the Bible and raise your right hand. Do you, Damian Dellinger, solemnly and sincerely swear that you will support the Constitution and laws of the United States, that you will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina and to the constitutional powers and authorities which are or may be established for the government thereof, and that you will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend the Constitution and laws of said state, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States, to the best of your knowledge and ability, and that you will faithfully discharge the duties of your office as a council member. So help
I do. Thank you. And this is my long-suffering significant other. So I will thank her again later.
Bill Matthews.
Hello, I'd like to introduce the wonderful lady swearing me in tonight. It's my wife, and this is a first. And she is a notary public, which makes her very legal. And she worked with me on this campaign, and I wanted them to be with me, and my grandson Ryan and my daughter Kelly, and thankful to be here.
I, Phil Matthews,
I, Phil Matthews,
do solemnly and sincerely swear
do solemnly and sincerely swear
that I will support the Constitution and the laws of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution and the laws of the United States,
that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance
I will be faithful and bear true allegiance
to the to the state of North Carolina
to the state of North Carolina,
and to the constitutional powers and authorities
to the constitutional powers and authorities
which are or may be established for the government thereof,
which are or may be established for the government thereof,
that I will endeavor to support,
that I will endeavor to support,
maintain, and defend
maintain, and defend
the Constitution and laws of said state,
the Constitution and laws of said state,
not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States,
not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States,
to the best of my knowledge and ability,
to the best of my knowledge and ability,
that I will faithfully discharge
that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of my office as council member,
the duties of my office as council member.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Elmo Vance. Are you sure you don't feel? Are you sure you don't have to say the same?
But do it later. He can do it a little bit later.
There's a spot later for new council comments on the agenda. Will y'all make comments?
You want to do those later?
Later, yeah. It's on the agenda a little bit later.
Good evening, everyone. To my left, we have my good friend, Superior Court Judge Vince Rozier, known him for quite a while. And to my right, I have my beautiful, lovely companion, my helpmate, my best friend, my wife of 34 years, Miss Beverly Vance. And I look forward to being a part of the council.
I will add that it is indeed an honor and privilege. When I followed Judge Knox to the district court bench about 13 years ago, got to know people in the community for Wake County. One of the people that I had the opportunity to meet and respect was Mr. Vance. And so these not many, but many years later, it is no surprise to see him here. I'm just honored for myself to be standing here today. So if you would please place your left hand on the Bible and raise your right hand and then repeat after me. I, Elmo Vance,
I, Elmo Vance,
do solemnly and sincerely swear
do solemnly and sincerely swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and laws of the United States,
and laws of the United States,
that I will be faithful
that I will be faithful
and bear true allegiance
and bear true allegiance
to the state of North Carolina
to the state of North Carolina
and to the constitutional powers
and to the constitutional powers
and authorities
which
are or may be established
for the government thereof,
that I will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of said state, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States,
not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States,
to the best of my knowledge and ability, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office as council member. So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You say I do too.
All right, we'll take about a 5-minute break. Give you a chance. Mingle. Get to know each other a little better. 5 minutes.
Start doing the KFC commercials now because he's getting a nice little shade of white there and then there. Give him a white suit, he'll be just right. Like Colonel.
Okay, where's my gavel? At any rate, we'll call the meeting back to order. If you have the agenda, you know the next item on the agenda after the recess is a recognition of outgoing members. Oh, thank you, sir. My new gavel there has a nice sound to it. So let me come down to that area there. Mr. Kennedy, there you are. Okay, thank you. And we want to do some recognition of our outgoing members. Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's a real honor, as my first act, I guess, as the new mayor, to recognize an outgoing member. Mr. Kennedy, why don't you come on up here, if you will, sir? You know, those of you who know Mr. Kennedy, and some of you may have known him longer than I have, he has been a dear public servant. I was thinking on the way over here tonight that if you could draw up a picture of a person and depict it in drawing or writing who it would be. And I personally think it would be Buck Kennedy. He is just the epitome of a public servant. It's been my privilege to serve with him for 12 years. We're going to miss his presence on the council, but he has served long and well. It's time for him to take his wife on a few trips. I think they took one recently. But Mr. Kennedy, I want to recognize your service by presenting this device to you, this plaque. It says, presented to Arthur Buck Kennedy in appreciation of your years of dedicated service to the people of Garner as an elected official, and the date, of course, is today of 2019. So, Mr. Kennedy, come and share with us any thoughts you have. Please, sir. Here you go. That's yours. Yep.
I do have a couple of remarks. When they called on me. I'd like first to recognize Mayor Ronnie Williams. Ronnie, for your 34 years of service to the town of Garner, 20 of them as a council member and 14 of them as mayor. Few can top a record of 34 years of public service. I'd also like to congratulate the new council members. First of all, Mayor Ken Marshburn, Council Member Elmo Vance, Council Member Damian Dellinger, Council Member Phil Matthews. I'm confident that you, ladies and gentlemen, will be able to work together quite well. I was impressed by the way things were conducted at the forum. Gave us all great anticipation of a new council being seated. I'd also like to extend my thanks and appreciation to Garner's staff, town officials, for several reasons. One being for your dedication in successfully operating and managing a fast-growing town, one we can all be proud of. I appreciate also your assistance and willingness to help me in the fulfillment of my duties and responsibilities. And I honestly want to tell you this. I want to thank you for your patience and your cooperation, and indeed your tolerance in working with me, because on a number of occasions I was, particularly on those occasions when I didn't happen to be on the same path as maybe the recommendation was that came from staff. So Rodney, John, Matt, Stella, all the department heads, managers, supervisors, and staff, yes, thank you for your assistance and for your tolerance. I think I'd be remiss if I didn't mention two of our major service providers, because they have really been great for the town of Garner and will continue to be so, I'm sure.
that being Garner Fire and Rescue, led by Chief Matt Poole, and that being All-Star Waste, led by Tommy Sims, and for your leadership in serving our citizens every day. They impact us in some way every day. But then to the council members with whom I've worked for, Ken for 12 years, Kathy 14, Gray and the rest of you for 16 years. Thank you for your collegial atmosphere that you sustained and which should be recognized and appreciated. I think we can all agree that we got a lot more accomplished by working together than if we had insisted on our own personal agendas. On a personal level, my tenure has been quite rewarding and fulfilling. I can assure you, I've enjoyed it every step of the way. Service to Garner was the culmination of a career that I could never have anticipated, but thank goodness it happened. Yes, I've enjoyed the past 16 years. And lastly, to my wife, Barbara, 52 years together, almost a third of which I was serving on council. But in doing so, it was a sacrifice to her to alter schedules, to miss meals together, and then to be awakened late at night when I'd come in from a meeting. I thank you is hardly enough. And on that note, she and I will depart, and we wish you all continued success and well-being. Thank you.
Mayor Marshall, can we make a quick comment about?
Please, yes, help yourself.
I got to do it before we get out the door now. Now, Buck and I have served together for 16 years. We sat side by side in the old town hall and the police station and in here. So we have had numerous conversations over the years, and it's been a pleasure to serve with Bucky. Buck and I, a lot of times come around to the same fault and idea and get to the same point. Buck, being a longtime engineer, does it different than me. I mean, I remember the first budget session we had. He has his calculator out there. It runs out of juice, and I'm thinking, oh man, he doesn't have a calculator. Oh no, Buck had a backup. I mean, he goes through things and analyzes them completely different than I do, but a lot of times we come to a similar conclusion. And it's been a pleasure serving with him. I've learned a lot with him. Buck and I are very similar in that we're the triple S guys. We're kind of salty, we're kind of Scrooge-like, and we're kind of smart alecky at times. And is that not the truth, Buck? It takes one to know one, doesn't it? That's right. Let's just tell him the truth, but it's been a pleasure. And his knowledge from being a longtime engineer has been beneficial to the town. Some of you folks don't know the work he's done behind the scenes. He created the revenue savings program we have in our budget, which helps us to save monies from our growth to help pay for some of these bond projects that we have and long-term capital projects. So it's been a pleasure and an honor serving with him for these past 16 years. I'm the only one I think up here that served with you the entire time, so just been a pleasure.
Thank you, Craig. Okay. Thank you. Any other council members? If not, okay, just one last word as he fades off the scene there. I told Buck, I said, well, you know, you can't ride off into the sunset because it's going to be dark when you leave. So I don't think that's deterred him at all. Well, the next gentleman that I want to recognize is a person that usually in introducing him, you say this is a person that really needs no introduction. He's a local guy. All of you know he grew up in this town. He loves this town. And he served this town faithfully for so many years. I thought that Mr. Kennedy probably described him well. He stole some of my thunder, I believe. But and some of you may think that you know, the last election results they came out the way they did. And Ronnie and I have had a good friendship over the years. At times we sort of challenged each other, and yeah, okay. So. Usually, though, we've had the agreement that if we have a difference, that one of us would call the other, and we'd have a sit-down and a face-to-face talk, and we pretty much honored that over the years. And so in keeping with that, I stopped by his house this afternoon. I guess it was, 3 or 4 o'clock. Where's Betsy? Betsy wasn't there, and so he and I just chatted some, and he gave me a little advice, and actually gave me a little list of some things that I needed to remember to do.
I call it homework.
Yeah, he calls it homework, that's right. So I told him that I'm a procrastinator sometimes, so I may save it till a little later. But at any rate, it's my deep privilege to honor our outgoing mayor this evening. And Mr. Mayor, I want to present this to you. It's a gavel. This is the old block, so you may want to take that as well. But it says, presented to Ronnie S. Williams in appreciation of your years of dedicated service to the people of Garner as mayor. I congratulate you, sir, and wish you many happy years. Take care of yourself. Go to the beach, kick back, do whatever you want to do. We honor you, sir.
What I have not done is congratulate the winners. For the new people, the winners, congratulations. The word service has been mentioned a couple of times already today. I want the new members and the older members to realize what you provide for the citizens of Garner is a service. There's much talk about it in the Bible. So if you got time to read the Bible, read it some. You'll see the word service. Service is what keeps us going. Service is what brought us here. And service is what's going to keep us here. I learned this already. God bless you. Thank you.
Hold a second, Rick, hold a second. I got the microphone now.
Let's photo bomb
Part of the three amigos, or this is the three former mayors.
Jimmy, first meeting, you already started. Before Mayor Williams goes, I just want to say, 34 years Ronnie has served Garner. I think he and Buck, that's 50 years of service between the two of them. And I've served with Ronnie for 26 years now. We've agreed on a lot of things and disagreed on a few, but we've moved forward on a lot of things. And I appreciate his effort. 34 years, that's a long time, folks. And again, we've lost a lot of institutional knowledge. We got good new board members. I'm not knocking know it all. Y'all understand the years of experience that they have. And it's been a pleasure working with you all these years, Ronnie. It'd be different with you out here.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we aren't quite through with the ceremonial portion of our agenda this evening, so I thought it's appropriate to ask any of our newly sworn-in council members this evening for any comments they care to make, and then your new mayor would like to make a few himself. So let's see, Mr. Matthews, we'll start down on this end and give you the mic right now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And it's good to be here. And I'll be remiss if when I seen Buck walk out with his wife, I felt like I was at a Dr. Phil show when they grabbed her and they walked out. It was really quite nice. I really liked that. Brought back good memories. But I had the pleasure of serving with Buck when he first was elected, and I learned a lot from him. When he brought in his book and had every page tabbed, I knew that man meant business, and he certainly did. And he served our community well as our mayor. But it's good to be back up here again. I feel like I've gone full circle and back home, and very glad to be here. I just want to thank a couple of people, a few folks, really a lot of folks, my supporters, my wife, Becky, who swore me in, and that was an all-time first, and she's put up with me through many elections and what we've gone through, and I appreciate that so much. And my daughter, Kelly, she was my campaign manager, and my grandson, Ryan, and my treasurer, as Josh and Jessica over there, and I appreciate them. And in closing, our election night, we're having a great celebration, and my brother, younger brother, passed away that night. We found out the next morning, and a big high went to a big low. So, but he was celebrating with us, and I'm sure he still is, and I'm going to dedicate this to him.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Matthews. I think we mentioned earlier, perhaps you folks prefer to stand. There are some seats up front if you'd prefer to come forward. Okay, next I'm going to recognize Council Member Damian Dellinger.
First, I just want to say how excited I am to be here finally. It seems like forever since election night. And I just want to thank everyone who voted for me. It sounds trite, but I appreciate your vote of confidence. If I knocked on your door, if I saw you at the polling place, if you saw the form, I appreciate your vote of confidence in me and our shared vision for Garner that we'll hope bring to fruition. I want to thank all the volunteers that helped. I want to thank my members of the Optimist Club. If you need a tree for Christmas, go to the Optimist Club, get yourself a tree. But in that spirit, actually, if you want to be involved in Garner, volunteer with any of these civic organizations that are in town. It's really the hidden lifeblood of this community, these civic organizations. So take your time to volunteer with them. Give them tomorrow for Giving Tuesday. I want to thank the existing and the outgoing council members and mayor for your support and tolerance of me showing up at every meeting over the past year or so. All my friends over the years, some are here, new friends in Garner. I want to thank my family, the Browns here. Jones County is up here now. There's a legacy of service there that I hope I can live up to. I want to thank Rachel Trudeau. I saw her walk in. I see you. I want to thank her and her family. Nothing against Mr. Matthews or Mr. Vance, but I wish he was up here with me. We campaigned a lot together and made it fun, and she's not going away, I've got a feeling. So, but I want to thank her and her family for their sacrifice and time. And my sister and my niece back there, they came and helped canvass. My Uncle Joe passed away in August during the campaign. Wish he were here. And my daughter, who can't be here, she's in Vienna in school. And my parents, if you'd stand, a lot of thank yous. If you'd stand, no, stand up.
Here we go.
I just want to thank them for always being the example of right and justice, and always teaching me to do those things, even in it's not popular. Thank you. And lastly, Rebecca in the back. Everything I've ever tried to do or have done successfully or unsuccessfully, she's always been there, and I wouldn't have ever been able to try them, much less succeed at them without her. So thank you. And I'll stop there.
Thank you, Mr. Dellinger. And now we will recognize Councilmember Elmo Vance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I want to say thank you all for coming out tonight. and to my family who traveled to be with me on this particular night. Thank you for traveling from various distances to be here. To my brother-in-law, to my co-workers who were here to support me in this endeavor, to my grandchildren, and to my wife, especially for bearing with me and allowing me to come out in Garner and play with my friends as much as I do. And it's a humbling experience just to be a part of this group of fine folks. Campaigning was an experience. I was telling one of my friends tonight that I learned a lot about Garner. There are some good folks here in Garner. They were very helpful and very good to work with. And to my neighbors, I don't get a chance to see you all. It's good to see you. It really is, I tell you. I spend more time away from home than I do at home. And it's good to see you all out tonight as well. To the town staff for your professionalism and for all the quality work that you do and have done. I look forward to continue that work, and especially to the outgoing mayor who was instrumental in helping me with my campaign, and also to Mr. Buck Kennedy, who was also a great guide. I would definitely be calling to ask questions and to draw upon that wisdom. And I look forward to serving the town of Garner in this capacity as council person, and I hope that I do a good job for you all. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Vance. And so now it's my turn. I want to thank all of you who came out tonight. It's a cold, windy night out there, and not the most pleasant night to be out, I guess, but this has been a wonderful occasion for me personally. I know I'm going to do something I probably shouldn't, because I want to just recognize a person or two. My campaign treasurer who has left, he's not here, Chris Jennings, he did such a wonderful job for me. There's a lady standing in the back that worked for me, 30. My administrative assistant, Miss Brenda Davis, who's standing back there in the red. Thank you, Brenda. And she helped me with my campaign too, but she and I worked in the federal probation pretrial service system for so many years. Don't think I would be here if it wasn't for her. So I would have loved to have had the opportunity to speak to each of you individually. Unfortunately, that's probably not been possible. But please know that I'm encouraged by your presence and your show of support. I want to take just a quick trip down memory lane, if I may call it that, and then bring us back to the present. So it was 6 years ago, and I believe the month was June, that my wife and I were at the RDU airport, along with some, I think 40 or 50 Garner citizens, preparing to board a plane for a flight to Denver, Colorado. Our mission was to appear before the National Civic League with the hope, should I say maybe the expectation, that our presentation would earn the town of Garner an All-America City Award. This award recognizes the work of communities in using inclusive civic engagement to address critical issues and create stronger connections among businesses, nonprofits, and government leaders. This was once called the Nobel Prize for Constructive Citizenship. It's been awarded to only 500 cities and towns since its inception in 1949. Well, our delegation had rehearsed our presentation and previously submitted the required written material. At this point, I would be remiss if I failed to mention that two important members of our group, Faye Gardner and Councilmember Jackie Johns, have since gone on to their heavenly reward. It was an exciting time for all of us, and you can imagine our nervousness as we marched into the grand room, where we gave it our best shot to convince a jury of national experts that we deserve the prestigious award of All-America City. We were competing against, I believe it was 19 other cities from across the United States. We had to wait until the awards banquet, which took place the following evening, until we learned that we were one of the chosen few when our town, Garner, was selected as a winner of the All-America City Award. It was a moment I will long remember, and I suspect the same is true for all the members of our delegation. And again, I should pause at this point. I think there may be some of those members in the audience tonight. If you were part of that delegation, would you please stand at this time? Any here? Where's Neil Padgett? Yeah, Rick Mercer. Go ahead, stand, please. Yeah. Sonia Shaw.
That's me too.
Okay. Elmo Vance, John Hodges, Kathy Behringer. Yes, okay. Thank you all. Thank you. You helped us win the prize. Now fast forward to the present and even to this ceremonial occasion. Much has transpired in the intervening 6 years, not the least of which was the passing of the town's largest bond issue that same year, which focused on street and sidewalk improvements, parks and recreation, redevelopment, and public safety and services facilities. This town hall we're meeting in is but one of many projects that have been completed as we continue to take on the challenges of meeting our current needs and service responsibilities to the citizens of our town. I believe that same spirit of civic pride and determination that was so evident in that room in Denver is still alive and well today. In fact, I see it every day as I move about our town and interact with so many of you. I see it in our faith community, our business community, our civic clubs, our volunteer organizations, our town staff, and our ordinary citizens who are going about their daily lives and doing their part to make Garner a great place to be. Oh, sure, we are occasionally battered and bruised, and sometimes we fall down. But we have always demonstrated the resilience to get back up, to learn from our mistakes, and to keep moving forward. I am often encouraged by the words and admonitions of those who are from a different era. One of my favorite philosophers and poets is Ralph Waldo Emerson, who said, and I quote, "What lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us." In the spirit of those words, I ask you to join with me and this council to find it within yourselves, to determine your place of service, and to do all you can to continue to ensure that Garner, our town, is a great place to be. God bless you as you do that. Thank you. The next item of business is the selection of a mayor pro tem, and I might just let you know in the audience, probably after we complete this, we'll take one other short recess. Some of you may want to leave, or you may want to stick around. But council, it is time now for you to decide who you want to elect amongst your body to be our mayor pro tem. So I'm now going to officially open the nomination process of mayor pro tem.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to nominate Councilwoman Kathy Behringer for Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay. Are there other nominations? Okay, hearing none, can I ask the council to accept this nomination by acclamation? If so, please say aye.
Aye.
If there's any opposition, no. Ms. Behringer, congratulations. You have been selected as our Mayor Pro Tem. I believe, Ms. Town Clerk, am I right in saying that it would be proper now to swear her in as a Mayor Pro Tem? And
Yes, sir.
I now have the authority to do that, is that right? Okay, thank you. Ms. Behringer, would you join me down front, please?
Don't forget your words.
Right here.
Yes. Just standing right here. Behringer, do you want to, let's see, where? You like to hold the Bible for you?
He is real.
Yes. Sure. Okay, if you will place your left hand on the Bible and raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Kathy I state your name, do solemnly swear
I, Kathy Behringer, do
solemnly and sincerely swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and the laws of the United States,
and the laws of the United States.
that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance
I will be faithful and bear true allegiance
to the state of North Carolina
to the state of North Carolina
and to the constitutional powers and authorities
to the constitutional powers and authorities
which are or may be established
which are or may be established
for the government thereof,
for the government thereof,
that I will endeavor to support,
that I will endeavor to support,
maintain, and defend the Constitution
maintain, and defend the Constitution
and laws of said state,
and laws of said state,
not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States,
not inconsistent with the Constitution of,
to the best of my knowledge and ability,
to the best of my knowledge and ability,
and that I will faithfully discharge
that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of my office as Mayor Pro Tem,
the duties of my office as Mayor Pro Tem,
so help me God.
so help me.
Congratulations. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a quick 5-minute recess if you would like to do that. And for those of you who can stay, morning portion of our agenda this evening. We will now proceed to the petitions and comments section. I'd like to first of all mention that if you desire to speak during this section and you haven't signed our sheet, we would prefer that you do so. I have at least 7 or 8 names here that I'll recognize in just a few minutes. Our town clerk has the sign-up sheet right over here to my left, and so if you could make your way over there, it would be appreciated for you to do that. This portion of the meeting is to receive comments from the public on items not included in this agenda. Citizens should sign up with the town clerk to speak prior to the start of the meeting. The board is interested in hearing your concerns, but may not take action or deliberate on subject matters brought up during the petition and comments segment. Topics requiring further investigation will be referred to the appropriate town officials or staff and may be scheduled for a future agenda. And I would remind all the speakers that by our town procedures, your comments should be limited to 3 minutes. So I think we have these in order, but all of those who've signed will certainly have the opportunity. So I will recognize at this time Mr. Durwood Lassiter, who desires to come forward and speak to us. Welcome, Mr. Lassiter. If you will, I should have mentioned, when you come to the podium, please state your name and your address.
My name is Durwood Lassiter. I live in Willow Spring, North Carolina. It was kind of down the road from Garner there. So I lived there, I guess, 20-some years, but I went to school in Garner High School, elementary, middle school, and high school in Garner. And so last week I got some disturbing news from the town on, we have great phones, we have great outlets now to get good news or bad news. And one thing disturbing last week, I heard that the Garner Christmas parade had been canceled. And then further reading up and doing some research, a few people complained about a group that wanted to be in the parade. And I understand that you just said a while ago, Garner was an all-American town. I mean, we do have multiculturals living here now. We have all kinds of groups of people living in our communities, in our cities, in our states now. And it was kind of disturbing to me that a few people complained, and it was strong enough for this council to counsel a Christmas parade. And I do understand there's safety for the citizens, and I understand that's a big concern. But I also understand, as smart as we are, we can look at Raleigh. They have the Christmas parade. They have many cultures in that parade. There's a lot of people down there at that parade, and it's always been safe. I've been to it many years. As smart as we are in this town, and I'm not a genius, but I don't know why we can't have some undercover policemen walking near this group, and also why we just can't fly a drone overhead to protect the citizens. And another thing that kind of concerns me is So we have a few people complaining about a group that cancels a parade. So what's next for this all-American town? Are we going to cancel the fireman's parade? Are we going to cancel the tree lighting Friday night? Are we going to stop having fireworks because a few people speak up and complain? So I'm here tonight to ask the new town council meeting. I know it's tough being new because I was on a chamber board that was new and got asked to make some hard decisions. And I was on a church board that was hard to make decisions. So I understand making hard decisions. But tonight I'm asking y'all to please consider the measures we can take to have a safe Christmas parade. And y'all can re-vote on this and have this Christmas parade in time for the holidays. And thank you for your time tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, sure. Okay, next I will recognize Gina Bernstein. Did I say that right? Bernstein.
Good evening. My name is Jenna Bernstein, 701 South Howard. I'm actually from Tampa, Florida. I've been a little upset because I've participated for many, many years in multiple parades with my home SEV camp in Tampa. I'm an honorary member. And I'm Jewish, so I want to start with a little bit of my Lord's Prayer. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. I'm very disheartened with the way cities are not listening to the will of the people. We just had a war memorial ripped down in Pittsburgh when 70% of the population wanted it left in place. You have a state law protecting it, okay? I take on Antifa, wannabe, right? I also take on the alt-right because you have, you know, the same people who hate people of color have hated Jews, what, for 5,000 years? You know? I know all about the whole hate. But to not listen to the will of the people and everybody suffer because of the threats of a few it's I can't believe it. I can't even believe it. I can't even believe you would cancel it. It's not right. It's absolutely not right. You know? There should be a discussion. People should be civil. Why are the unruly thugs and domestic terrorists are allowed to run rampant in the state? Between Durham, Chapel Hill, it's a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace. I've been to Dachau and Auschwitz, you know? And I'm called a Nazi by the alt-left. I'm a bad Jew because 20,000 Jews served in the Confederacy. No, we're not gonna have this. My grandfather left Moscow in 1918 at the height of the Ku Klux Klan. Or were they blocking blacks and Jewish and Catholic immigration into this country? So the South was very, very unified during the war between the states and afterwards. It's the Yankee North. Dr. King said it himself. Love breeds love and hate breeds hate. And he said the most racist city ever been to was Chicago, Detroit. That's where your integration riots were, not in Florida, not in Georgia. And it's an absolute disgrace that the youth today do not know their history.
Ms. Bernstein,
So,
I'm going to
I'm
ask you to wrap up in about 30
All right,
seconds.
well, I would really appreciate you reinstating it. I really do. They're really good people. And it's a shame the children, I mean, how are the kids going to learn from history? So canceling it? Come on. I mean, you should be really listen to the citizens. You were voted and elected to represent your citizens. So I'll pray for you guys. I'll pray for you. All right? God bless you.
Thank you. Okay, let me apologize in advance when I mispronounce a name. It's not my intent to do that. But is it a Lalina Aro? And you can correct me on the name if you'd like to.
Thank you. It's Lalania Haro, and I live at 1502 Lakeside Drive here in Garner. First of all, congratulations to the new members of the council and to you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you for letting me speak today. I'm also here to speak about the Christmas parade. My question, though, is a little different. I think I understand why the parade was canceled and why it needed to be canceled. My question to the board is, why was the SCV in the parade in the first place? Granted, I did not know much about them until the parade was canceled, and then I did some research. I spent quite a bit of time on their website reading the documents that they have posted there. And I want to share with you some of the things that are stated on their website. They try in different ways to justify why slavery had nothing to do with the Civil War. Here are some of the comments. It was not slavery, but the vindictive, intemperate anti-slavery movement that was at the bottom of all of the troubles. The Negroes were the most spoiled domestics in the world. The Southerners took the Negro as a barbarian and cannibal, civilized him, supported him, clothed him, and turned him out a devout Christian. I don't think these statements represent the values of the town of Garner. And I would ask you to think about that when you decide who should be in the parade in the future. Thank you.
I will now recognize, excuse me, Jean Lambert. That person here? Okay, so that person is no longer here. Next, I will recognize Mr. Charles Dingy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Council. My name is Charles Dingy, 1316 Pineview Drive, right here in Garner. Originally, I planned to come tonight not for the parade, but because the meeting minutes are not updated online. They haven't been updated for 3 months. That was the original meeting of me coming tonight. But with the actions that occurred with the parade, I'm disappointed that adults have chosen to back down to bullies. Town leadership recently put out a video where you loosely described canceling the parade without providing any substantial specifics. It was mentioned that a series of unnamed groups had posted online about causing a potential disturbance at the parade. They may do that, they may not. Regardless, the parade was chosen to be canceled. Instead of dealing with these problems head-on and these possible threats, town leaders have chosen to cower in the fear of the possibility of danger. Your failure to act appropriately has now set a precedent that any event in Garner can be canceled because someone isn't comfortable with it. Because someone or a group of people aren't happy with it. I wonder, will future events be canceled due to possible disruptions or threats of disruptions? Will these groups that the town has now cowered to view Garner as a potential target for demonstrations and protests in the future? Will these groups see this vacuum of power from a police force that has said it can't protect us at community events, and a town whose leadership has bowed to their demands? Knowing what's right doesn't mean much unless you do what's right. It's sad to see adults cowering to the demands and threats from bullies. Thank you.
Sure. Next, I will recognize Bill Berry. Is he here? I know I saw him earlier. Okay, I'm getting assigned. He's no longer here. Okay, thank you. Next, I will recognize Steve Dixon.
As mayor, I think you're the first. Congratulations. Look, I'm not here for the express purpose of berating you guys, but I do have a couple of questions. Was this a town voted decision? Did the council vote on this decision? Was this an administrative decision? I'm asking a question, do I get an answer?
I'll be happy to answer
Yes.
certainly the first question. Yeah, the council voted on this decision, absolutely.
Can I get a show of hands of who voted for and against?
Well, as you might understand, there are two new members here tonight who were not part of that vote, okay? Excuse me.
Just the ones that are present would be okay with me? If you don't want to, that's fine. Let me move on. I don't want to waste your time.
Go ahead with your comment,
But
please, sir.
the information that you got, was it online? Because the reason I'm here is to get answers that, quite frankly, weren't forthcoming. So, is the online, was that the threat that we got?
Proceed with your,
Yep. Oh,
with your
okay.
comment,
Fair enough.
please, questions.
If I don't get answers, I guess I've wasted my time. The police, I know it's a tough job. But I have to say that if you know the time and the place and the victim, then surely something could be done to protect either the group or the citizenry. I'm sure that if the Dallas police or the Memphis police or the San Francisco police knew the victim, the time, the place, I'm surely Mr. King and both of the Kennys would be old men now. I believe that. Last speaking, you know, we all grew up here, most of us. Gray, the last time I saw you, you put a elbow on my eye, put 7 stitches in my eye on a basketball game. I don't hold that against you. I want you to know that, okay? All right. We've been around here a long time. Andy Griffith, we all know this, that the life lessons he taught. Andy Griffith has one episode where Opie gets his milk money taken away from him. Andy says you got to stand up to a bully. You got to do it. This is not the way to run. This is not the way to run a town. And irregardless, I shudder to think. I shudder to think that if it would have been any other civic-minded parade, would the same result have been? Would we have the same result? Or would we, if the police department needs help, I would like to know from this point, has this gone any further? Has the police department investigated the perpetrators of the crime? It's against the law here in North Carolina to threaten someone. You can get arrested. Am I right? We've been threatened. We've been threatened. And it just seems to me, the answers, and by the way, you all can clear your voicemails now. I've been trying since Wednesday to leave a message. You can clear them now. All right? I'm not asking you to reinstate the parade. I think it's a foregone conclusion. It's a bad one. It's a bad one. But it's a foregone conclusion. And I sort of hate that you don't raise your hands, those of you that are here that voted to turn this down, so we know. Thank you very much.
Thanks, sure. Okay. I would just remind those who come forward that obviously nobody's looking to not answer, and we'll deal with it in a little bit. But it says the board is interested in your concern, but may not take action or deliberate on subject matters brought up during the petitions and comments. So ordinarily we hear from citizens and take that under advisement. Those are the only names that I have of people who signed up in advance. We do on some occasions allow others to come and make comments as long as they stay with our time limit. I believe I saw a gentleman out there. So, sir, if you'll come forward, we'll hear from you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Danny Martin. I'm from King, North Carolina.
What was your first name, sir?
King, North Carolina. Along with Jenna and several others, have been on the grounds where these monuments have been removed illegally and seen these bullies that are causing these disruptions in these towns. After these monuments have been removed, there's no difference. It doesn't make any difference toward the racism that they think that they claim that these cause. You have to excuse me. My language is a little rough. I suffer with Parkinson's. But it is a sad situation that you don't feel you can protect your citizens while they do a Christmas parade for these kids of these communities because of just a few who want to make threats on Facebook and Twitter, which they do quite often. Very few ever carried through. Very few. The only ones that have been carried through, they were arrested and the court system let them go with little to no punishment. And they continue to keep doing this. Now, I'd like to see y'all bring up a resolution to vote on reinstating this Christmas parade. I think the children of this county and this town, this fine city, deserve that. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Amen. Okay, we'll recognize you, sir.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. My name is Floyd Baker. I live at 910 Wade Avenue, Garner class of 74, United States Air Force veteran. I didn't serve this country to see us turn tail and run. I know who we are. The Constitution provides us for freedom and liberty and a right to defend ourselves. Nowhere in there are we promised safety. I want to quote a founding father, Benjamin Franklin. Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither. I don't know what was going on, and frankly, don't care. At the end of the day, we stand up to bullies. We defend ourselves whenever we're in the right. We have taken a great deal from a lot of people. We have children and people that have been building floats. Children have been rehearsing dance routines. We've got churches that have expended money to build floats and prepare items to be a part of this parade. To have it just taken away, and I think what's been addressed here tonight are two separate issues. You got a group that's in the parade that creates some issue, that is an issue. I don't have a problem with that. We can address that as a specific issue. But because somebody or some group of people took to social media and made a veiled, unverified threat, we're going to turn tail and run? That is not the principles that this country was founded on. The men and women that serve this nation do not serve this nation by turning tail and run. We defend this country. We defend our Constitution. I've heard the Constitution mentioned in here all night. I call on this board to take your oath of office serious and defend that Constitution and stand up for this nation and this town and defend it against those that would do harm. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'm not where it
Well, hold on just a minute, Phil.
Okay.
I want to make sure that we're not recognizing anybody else. As I noted previously, ordinarily at this point in time, we refer matters to a staff or others with some further expectation that if any further action is required, that we would determine a time and a place for that. But this evening, I will ask if council members want to speak to this issue again. I ask you to be consistent with the time frame. So, Mr. Matthews, I will recognize you at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate that. Like Mr. Dillinger, we were both civilians at that time when all this came down, and he most certainly can speak for himself. And I'm sensitive to what has been said here on both sides. I'm a Vietnam veteran. I wear this little pin here. A couple of vets recognized it earlier tonight. I fought for my country in 1969 and 20 and a half years in the United States Army. We got a Veterans Memorial out here at Lake Benson Park, and I lived right down below it. I was a county commissioner when we cut the ribbon on that park. And I'll never forget a statement I made as I was speaking there was that the wind was blowing that day. And I was telling the general, I said, I feel like that's the souls of all the veterans that's died for this country blowing around these stones out here. And it gave me goosebumps. And so I occasionally visit the memorial to sit and reflect. If you're a veteran, you know what I'm talking about. If you're not a veteran, it probably won't register to you. I was looking at it this weekend, and it's made, if you have not been out, it's made up of 15 stone pillows representing wars, conflicts from Iraq all the way to the Revolutionary Wars. And the other pillows backing up to it lists the Garner residents that were killed in fighting for their country and the freedoms that we enjoy. In the Vietnam War, we got 8 Garner residents showing on those pillows out there that died for their country, fellow brothers, out of over 50,000. The next pillow, a couple of pillows down, is the Civil War. which we've been talking about tonight, 41 Garner residents or neighbors with names like Brian, Poole, Sauls, Carol. That should ring bells to a lot of you here. Their families still live in this area. They paid the supreme price for what they believe in. They fought for their country. And I knew a lot of people might not have been out there to see this thing. And if you'll indulge me, I took a quick snapshot of it. And I'd like to read you that quick inscription on that particular one, marked 1860. The American Civil War was fought for many reasons. Some argued that the election of Abraham Lincoln threatened the states' rights. Others wanted to protect their economic investments, particularly slavery, from Northern abolitionists. Regardless the reason, over 125,000 North Carolinians joined that war effort, comprising over 1/6 of the Confederate military. That's a large number. The majority fought in Virginia's battlefields at Appomattox. 1/5 of those who surrendered under Lee were North Carolinians. The war was devastating. Over 19,000 North Carolinians were killed in battle. Another 20,000 died of disease greater than any other Confederate state, but the war conditions also took its toll on civilian deaths. Much like our veterans today coming back from Vietnam, Iraq, it's like I made a speech one time and I said, you know, when we dedicated that memorial, I said, there's a lot of wounds, there's a lot of dead, there's a lot of wounds. Some wounds you can see and some wounds you can't see, and a lot of us are still dealing with that thing. But the point I'm going with all of this is, this memorial out there for all of those wars, all of those that were killed, stands for something. And my thought is, what's going to be the next target we're going to have to deal with? Is going to be the Vietnam Veteran Memorial because somebody didn't like what we had to fall for? Is it going to be the war between the states, the Civil War? That is sacred ground out there. And I, for one, am not going to stand by and support and watch a group of so-called Silent Sam people or those not in from Garner to desecrate our sacred ground. And I stand behind it. And I got elected. And yes, I'm sworn tonight, but this was on my mind before I was sworn, and I would have spoke if I had not been elected toward this. And so all I'm saying, we got in the First Amendment right here. We got to be careful of. We can't trample the Constitution. And my opinion, this is only my opinion, is that we cannot let small groups with an agenda come to our great town of Garner that we all love. And we want to have parades. We like picnics in the park. We like concerts. Not let these people destroy all that we've worked and fought and died for. And I thank you for my time, and I yield back.
Sure. Thank you, sir. Okay. Thank you. I'd appreciate it if you don't shout from the audience out there. Okay. I'm going to allow other council members who may wish to speak, since Mr. Matthews had that opportunity. You don't have to, obviously, but did you want to say something?
Yes, so would I.
Singular.
This was, I don't think we all agreed on this decision. I'll say that. We discussed this in closed session because of possible pending litigation from any action that we took. I think people get misled because they think, oh, they made some comments on Facebook and Twitter. These groups, there are all kinds of chat rooms on the dark side of the internet that not only the Garner Police monitor, SBI monitors, Highway Patrol monitor. Chief Ben shared some information with us that you're not going to find on Facebook and Twitter. And this was a concern of everyone when we talked about it. One difference, a couple of things when we discussed this, you know, it's a parade route of 1.5 to 2 miles, and it's going through neighborhoods. When they're in Pittsburgh, and when they're in Chapel Hill, and when they're in Durham, they're at a statue, they're at a single place, so they're contained. When we have the Christmas tree lighting this Friday night, they're contained. You're not spread out over 1 or 2 miles. People say, well, get enough police in there. Well, folks, we don't have a 65 police in the force. 1.5 to 2 miles, 2 sides of the street. Okay, you can bring in other law enforcement agencies. That's fine. We had that discussion round and round. And that can happen too. The difference in Pittsburgh and Chapel Hill and Durham and Charlottesville is this. They were all adults. The parade involves kids. This is why I'm so upset, because the kids, there's nothing better than being on that float and throwing candy and watching those kids get that candy. That is just a thrill to watch them. And that's what's upsetting to me is the kids can't enjoy it. On the other side, if some of these bullies, and that's what they are, decided to run out there, they might run over and knock a kid down, trample a kid, not an adult, a kid. That's a different story. And the threat of what a bystander might do, who knows? That's the concern that was discussed and we all discussed it. I'm just trying to share some of all this with you. There's more, as I say, as Chief Ben shared with us, comments. This was not 2 or 3 comments on our chat room either, folks. There were hundreds of people in this state and other states. That's the bad thing. They're coming from all over talking about this. So as we discuss this, and we had a lot of spirited discussion, I can assure you, the majority decided we shouldn't do it. And staff, I understand their concerns. Because again, I had the same questions. Well, what are we going to do July 3rd? What are we going to do here? And what are we going to do there? Well, they're contained. Okay, they're contained. The way I look at it is, you know, this is your mulligan. You know, we're doing this now, but you better figure out a way to address it in the future. And, you know, there's some talk because a government, very few governments, town governments run parades anymore because of the free speech rights. Anyone can be in the parade. That's the free speech rights at Garner and Durham, I think Roxborough and another town in the area. Most of them are run by either chambers or merchants association or civic clubs, and they can include or exclude who they want, where the town cannot do that. I think that's why you'll see that, you know, the Garner Fire Department does a great day with Fireman's Day, and they can include or exclude someone if they so choose. The town cannot do that. You have to include everyone. So it's whether the town continues in the parade business, I don't know. My disappointment with this is that this has been discussed sometime. There were some comments from our people who were offended last year. I wish this had come to us. I wish we had discussed this months ago instead of backing up right a week and a half before Christmas, which was, in my opinion, ridiculous. But I've had that discussion with staff, and we'll continue to have that discussion. So this was it's not something that when we discussed this, we just flippantly said, hey, we'll just bow down because I don't like kissing their butt either. Let me assure you. And that's exactly what we're doing to bullies. However, there are people who have opinions on both sides. And again, this is not adults like these other towns. I pulled up and watched all the WRL news stories a couple times in the last week and watched all the people out there, all adults. Again, there's not a 5-year-old little kid out there who might be dancing. Somebody talked about the dancing, the church floats. My little girl, she's 15 now, the youngest one, has been dancing for 10 years in there. She was prepared to dance this time. But I think about the little girls she helps to teach. Some of them are volunteer to help with some of the small kids. And I think, what if somebody some idiot ran out there to do something and ran over one of these little kids? That's the thing that scares me, is little kids. You want to have the parade to entertain little kids, and then the other side, the other extreme, you want to protect them as much as you can. That's the thing that scares me. And, you know, we could have our Garner police out there in their full military riot gear walking around the Sons of the Confederacy to prevent them from this other group. But who knows what that other group or groups may do? God knows. They might decide, well, we'll just interrupt someone else. We'll lay down in the middle of the street. And then what if an onlooker gets mad? A bystander. Anyway, okay, my 3 minutes are up. I'll be quiet. I'm sorry. I wanted to give some more information. Steve Dixon asked for some more information. I'm trying to share some of it. Not say everything. I probably said more than I should based on what the attorney tells us. But anyway, when we discussed this, it was not an easy decision that we talked about it. I just want to let you know that.
Thank you, Mr. England. I didn't tell council members in advance that we might give them an opportunity to speak here this evening. Ordinarily, we refer it, but others, I'll start with Ms. Barrington, my right, if she cares to include some comments.
I would just like to say that I think Councilmember Singleton explained our position very well. There were discussions at length and more than one night, more than one time. Safety of the children were number one concern, and that will continue to be a number one concern. It's easy to say, give us our freedoms, but what if it were your child? What if it were your child? That's all.
Thank you. Mr. Vance.
To echo what has already been said, it was a tough decision. And we're moving into a period of peace and pray harmony. I was in the Army and a warrior. And to endanger the children after being on a float for several parades for the first time in a long time, to see their faces. I'm also a minister of the gospel. I believe that I would have got off the float if I see a child being harassed or attacked or being in a line of trouble. It was a long and hard debate. It was a tough one. And it's one that we have to look at in the future as how we're going to do things better. And what can we do to not let this happen again, ever. And I would say that I believe that we are going to move in that direction of doing it better next time and making sure that folks who want to exercise their free speech be given the opportunity to do that, whether you're pro or against it. Allow them the opportunity without any repercussions from anybody else. But when we go to a season like this, as it's been stated, where children are involved and mixed groups are involved, and where we should be celebrating peace, we're looking at frustration and anger right now. And it's imperative that a lesson has been learned, that we have to think things through and make those hard decisions early on and debate them out early on so that this will not happen again. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Vance. Mr. Dellinger, you care to?
Much like Mr. Matthews, we weren't privy to the conversations and discussions like council, so I think our reactions are very similar as outsiders to the reaction, the gut reaction of it. And a lot of the sentiments that were expressed today by you all are very similar. You don't want to bow down. My mom, who sat right up here, she grew up on a tobacco farm in Surrey County, and she tells a story about how they always used to fight, because that's what they did on farms, they fought. And one of her cousins would pin her down and say, "You say uncle, you say uncle." And she said, "I'm not going to say uncle. You're going to break my arm before I say uncle." And she didn't say uncle, and she didn't get her arm broken. But the lesson is you don't back down to bullies. And I think Mr. Matthews and I feel very similarly that, there's a legacy in a lot of things. I had written some notes before, and again, not knowing if we'd have a chance to articulate these or not, but, and I want everyone in here to take a message from this. This is not just for me, it's for everyone. But my ancestors were beaten and whipped and kidnapped and sold, thrown in the ocean and hanged from trees. They fought in wars to defend this great country, even when it refused to defend them. We as a community and as a town have no right to fear tackling anything. Their suffering and sacrifice are courage paid forward to every single one of us to face any threat to our community and our way and quality of life. We owe it to them the moral fortitude these days require. We all choose our own legacy, because a legacy is not something you leave behind, it's something you build today for future generations. That's where I get strength, and that's that courage that we all feel has been betrayed, I think. And that's, again, no offense to the council, but that's my gut feeling. We all want to be informed and to have the right to be courageous to protect our town. When I was at the candidates forum, I said, I'll fight for Garner. And I'll fight for Garner because I know everyone in this community is going to stand next to me against outsiders who come in here and try to mess with what we have. So I think in the future we can do things better. And I've studied student history, and this is my last point. And Terry Sanford is one of my favorite politicians of all time. And I don't want you to be distracted by the organization involved in this quote, but on December 7th, 1964, so the same day as our Christmas parade, newspapers announced that the Christmas parade in Lewisburg, North Carolina, would be integrated for the first time in 1964. Consequently, The Ku Klux Klan made several threats against the staging of the event, thus provoking this gubernatorial rebuke. It is the height of sacrilege for the Ku Klux Klan to try to inject hatred into the Christmas parade at Lewisburg. I would urge all members of the KKK to read, again, the Christmas story and message of goodwill to all men contained in the Bible. In the meantime, I'm instructing the State Highway Patrol to provide all aid necessary to ensure that the citizens of Lewisburg will be unmolested when they hold their traditional Christmas parade. If there are illegal acts on the part of the KKK members, they will be prosecuted. Amen. And I think that goes for any group that wants to come into Garner from over here or over there. We've got to stand together, and we have to be informed as a community to make those decisions, to defend ourselves. I think we have a lot of work to do to start early, before next year, to decide what we're going to do. We need to look at our threat analysis capacity and all these things longer in advance. I think Ray said it came up to the end. But we have a lot of work to do. But if we don't do it together, we're doomed. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Dellinger. Ladies and gentlemen, and to the gentleman who questioned, I was part of that discussion, and I did vote with a majority to cancel the parade this year. And I did so out of a conscience that told me whichever way the town took action, there was going to be criticism either way. From my perspective, I'd rather err on the side of personal safety for the good citizens of this town, rather than to be known as a town where a terrible tragedy occurred. I think if some of you visited the good people in Charlottesville today, you would hear of the trauma that many are still undergoing as a result of the bad things that have happened in terms of their reputation. The previous council took this action. That action still stands. Until and unless that action is changed, I think it was a good decision. I do think that we will have an opportunity as a new council to discuss some of these very concerns that have been mentioned here this evening. I don't personally believe this is the end of our Christmas parade, and I will do all I can as mayor to either put together an organization or groups that can basically study and look at this issue. I think it's too late to reschedule anything this year, and as I said, the previous council's action stands. But I think it will give us time to discuss further, to look at options. Some of you may know that some of the parades in other areas are not town-sponsored, and so the issue of liability and things related to that becomes a big issue. So when the town manager comes to me and others, based on very solid information from other departments, this was not a flippant decision. It wasn't based on skewed information, based on very solid information as far as I was concerned. It indicates that public safety is something that we can't guarantee. Then I personally believe the right decision was made. You have a right to disagree with that, obviously. That's probably the final word to be said on that, Mr. Manager, unless I don't think there are any committees we would refer that to at this point in time. But moving forward, I'll be happy to talk with council further about what additional action we may take in the future. But for now, the action of the previous council stands. Okay, any other council members? All right, that concludes the section on petitions and comments. I want to thank those of you who commented this evening and for the, shall I say, the courteous way. I think you tried to approach this issue, not a difficult issue to discuss for many. Thank you for that. Thank you for coming this evening. And we will now be prepared to move to our next agenda item at this point, which is the adoption of the agenda. And I would say to council that are here, I'm going to request that we have a closed session that's not on the agenda in order to confer with the attorney regarding pending litigation. With that add-on as a closed session, I will ask for a motion to adopt the agenda.
We adopt the agenda with the added closed session regarding pending litigation to take place.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on that or concerns? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Let's see, what am I missing, Ms. Clerk?
We don't have a consent agenda. It says consent, but we don't have one.
That's right, that is true. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be going into new and old business items. If you care to stay for that, that's great. If you feel like your purpose in being here is over, you're free to leave at this time. Just do so in a quiet manner if you don't mind. We'll pause for a minute for those who may want to leave.
Someone saying the lady was Ricky's daughter. The other bearded guy's my nephews.
Okay, the next item of business is under new business, is a general use rezoning issue. And so, Mr. Attorney, I hate to admit, but I have somewhere misplaced my note in terms of any instruction. I have it here somewhere, but if you could advise.
This is not a quasi-judicial proceeding, so the only question for the council is if you have any particular knowledge of this case that you'd like to share with the others, or predisposition before hearing the information from the planning department, you should reveal it now.
Okay, you've heard the attorney's instruction. Does that apply to anybody on the council here this evening? Okay, hearing none. I believe it would be appropriate to open the hearing at this point and to, well.
I believe this does not involve a hearing, or you've already had one.
Well, we did have the public hearing, but.
Right, we had a public hearing and it was referred to the planning commission, so now it's back to town council as a new old business item. So staff is prepared to give a report, and then at which time you will confer over the action. So,
okay.
yeah, if you want to call
Mr.
on.
Bamford, I believe, is the person who will give the staff report. Thank you, Mr. Bamford. Open the hearing.
Stella, we can put anything up on the screen. Good evening, Mayor and members of council. This is a general use zoning petition. This rezoning request involves two pieces of property at the northeast corner of Auburn-Knightdale Road and East Garner Road. And this request originally went to the town council at their meeting on November the 4th. This was a public hearing. There were no comments from the public or any comments in opposition at that time. The applicant did speak in favor of this request. That case was referred to the Planning Commission at their meeting on November the 18th. The Planning Commission did review this request and did recommend approval. So this case has come back to the council tonight for action. So this is not a public hearing. The rezoning site does involve two separate pieces of property. The total acreage is around 0.78 acres. The current zoning is residential, single-family R20, and the request is to rezone it to neighborhood office. This is a vicinity map of the rezoning site. It's at the northeast corner of Auburn-Knightdale and East Garner Road. This is an aerial photo of the site. There are two separate tracts of land. The property is currently vacant. There was an old country store on the corner lot for many years, and that was torn down a few years ago. So the corner lot has been used as a commercial use in the past. This is a zoning map of this area of Garner. This area on the east side of Auburn-Knightdale Road came into Garner zoning ETJ in the spring of 2017. This was in Wake County a few years ago. The predominant zoning on this side of the road is residential 20. There's single-family homes on this side. This area has been served with private well and septic. A few years ago, the town approved Auburn Village, which is a large subdivision north of this site, so water and sewer is coming to this area. Across the street on the northwest corner of this intersection is zoned multi-residential, and this is an obsolete zoning district under the old land use ordinance. This zoning district allows single-family duplexes and triplexes. It does not allow townhomes or apartments. On the south side of East Garner Road, we have some R20 zoning with some single-family homes. This table shows the zoning cases in this area of Garner. The oldest case we have is from 1993. This site was closer to Highway 70. The 2017 case was the Garner ETJ expansion, which rezoned properties east of Auburn-Knightdale Road from Wake County R30 to a Town of Garner zoning district. The 2016 planned development rezoning was the Auburn Village project, which is under construction. And the most recent case in this area was the general use rezoning Z19-03. This property was about a half a mile east of this intersection, and this request was denied. That request was to rezone from R40 and R20 to RMH, which is a mobile home zoning district. To summarize the existing and proposed zonings, the existing zoning is R20, single family. Minimum lot size is 20,000 square feet, and the density is around 2.17 units per acre. The requested zoning classification is neighborhood office. This is the lowest level non-residential zoning we have. This district allows single family as well as a few office uses. It allows professional offices, daycares, banks as examples. This chart shows the dimensional requirements for both the existing and the proposed. Minimum lot size is different. The front, rear, and side yard setbacks are somewhat similar. And the minimum lot widths are different as well. This is a general use rezoning request, which means all permissible uses need to be considered. On this chart, the uses that are in white are allowed in the existing zoning and would be carried over to the proposed zoning district. The uses shaded in orange would be new uses that could potentially be allowed on the property, and the uses in green are allowed now but would not be permissible if this got rezoned. So the new uses that would be permissible would be upper story residential. This could be an apartment on a second story with the office on a first floor. Adult daycares would be permissible. Commercial daycare centers, funeral homes, indoor gyms and spas, hair salons and beauty salons, banks and financial institutions, veterinarian indoor kennels, medical office, and general office uses. And again, the uses in white or not shaded or allowed now and would also be permissible in the proposed neighborhood office zoning. Our Unified Development Ordinance lays out which districts temporary uses are permissible in. The applicant has plans for a temporary use on the site. At this time, they do not have plans to develop the site into a permanent use, but they would like to use the site as a temporary use, and the applicant will be able to explain that in more detail. Under our Unified Development Ordinance, seasonal outdoor sales is not a permissible use in the current R20 zoning. It is allowed as a permissible use in the commercial zoning districts, neighborhood office, neighborhood commercial, central business district, office and institutional, community retail, service business, and the 2 industrial zoning districts. What one would have to do is apply for a temporary use permit. This is a staff level approved permit. A form would have to be filled out with information such as hours of operation, how parking and traffic circulation is going to work. And that is reviewed by staff and approved. Temporary uses are allowed 3 times a calendar year for 45 days each, or a total of 135 days total for the year. Seasonal outdoor sales could include fireworks, Christmas trees, pumpkins, Valentine's flowers, things like that. This is the Garner Forward future land use map. This rezoning site does include 2 separate tracts of property. The property at the very corner is designated as a neighborhood commerce center on our future land use map. The property directly to the north is designated as low-density residential. Low-density residential, the plan recommends 2.5 or less than 2.5 units an acre, and that's primarily because this area is not served by public sewer, so you have to have a septic system, so the lots need to be larger. For the Neighborhood Commerce Center, the Garner Forward Plan recommends retail sales and service, convenience stores, restaurants, or other office uses. The Garner Forward Plan does make the following note for the Neighborhood Commerce Center. Neighborhood garden centers or agricultural sales stands that are small scale and compatible with the surrounding land uses would be a compatible use within this neighborhood commerce center. In addition to the future land use map, we also look at the guiding principles in the document. Working places in the comp plan on pages 68 through 72 has the following principles, and staff made note of these in our review. Attract unique commercial establishments, page 68. This could include a seasonal temporary sales use. 2, support anticipated increase in office needs. Office uses would be permissible in the neighborhood office zoning. Establish a cooking studio / farmers market. Again, temporary seasonal sales would probably fit this category. And lastly, develop North Garner, seeking opportunities for redevelopment of commercial and residential properties has happened and should continue to occur, page 72. Zoning consistency statement. This request seeks to rezone 2 tracts at the northeast corner of Auburn-Nightdale Road and East Garner Road from residential 20 to neighborhood office. The requested neighborhood office district is consistent with the 2018 Garner Forward Comprehensive Plan future land use map for the corner tract, which is currently designated Neighborhood Commerce Center, but not for the northern piece. The rezoning to neighborhood office at this intersection of two major thoroughfares is also consistent with the workplace principles outlined in the plan on pages 68 through 72. Approval of this request will require an amendment to our future land use map to redesignate just the northern piece from low-density residential to neighborhood commerce center. In staff's opinion, this is a minor expansion of the existing neighborhood commerce center. The total acreage of both tracts is around 0.78 acres, so it's less than 1 acre. The public hearing was held on November the 4th. There were no comments in opposition from the public. The applicant did speak in favor of the request and explain what the plans were for the site. The Planning Commission did review this request after a meeting on November the 18th, and they did vote unanimously to approve, or they recommended approval of this request. And they did recognize that this would involve an amendment to the comprehensive plan map to designate the northern tract from low-density residential to neighborhood commerce center. And again, the corner tract is already designated as neighborhood commerce center on the future land use plan. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Your motion worksheet is on page 13. The applicant is here to answer any of your questions as well.
Thank you, Mr. Bamford. And before we recognize the applicant, I will ask council if anyone has a question for Mr. Bamford this time.
I do.
Okay, Mr. Dellinger.
Oh, just a few. Just learning as we go here. Are there any roadway, any road or access or driveway improvements required or advised for the property that coincide with this type of rezoning at this particular location, sidewalks or distances from the intersection? And if not, when would such improvements be required?
So road improvements such as sidewalks, curb and gutter, and widening would come into play when the site is developed into a permanent use. It would go through a site plan process, and for a temporary use like what is proposed, that would not be required at this time.
And just another question about the Auburn Knightdale Road. Is that one we maintain, or is that a DOT maintained road?
Both roads, East Garner Road and Auburn Knightdale Road, are state maintained roads.
Are there any plans to, I know there are improvements in front of Auburn Village that were done, I guess, when the development was done. Are there any plans to do a widening of Auburn Knightdale? When I looked, I saw that, you know, that second tier of 540, which is way out, connects to the northeast of there. And I know that there are 3 lanes south of 70. So are there any plans to do any sort of widening along that corridor?
I'm not aware of any plans as far as like a road project, but as developments occur along this road, then the developer would be required to put in road improvements along their frontage. So as the properties on the other side develop, or if this side develops into a permanent use, then the developer would be required to put in road widening. And I'm not sure what the future width will be. It may be a 3-lane cross section where you have 2 travel lanes and a center lane. That might be what it is, but I'm not totally sure.
That's what it is in front of Auburn Village, is the 3 lanes. That's all.
You good? Okay.
Good.
Any other council members have a question for Mr. Bamford? Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Bamford. I believe, let's see, we're in order to hear from the applicant. If anybody has any questions, if you'll come forward, just state your name and address again, if you would.
Crystal Bueller, 2213 East Garner Road. It's a Raleigh address, but it's a Garner School District. Congratulations on all of your new posts and your continuing service. It's an honor to be here tonight on such a very important evening, so I'm glad to be up here on a much lighter note, though.
Thank you.
And I graduated from Garner, class of 80. Go Gray. And Gray was one of my classmates, and so was Sam Bridges, but he had to go home. My brother, Robbie Ashley, my maiden name is Ashley, is here tonight also. When we were here for the hearing in early November, my parents were here and lots of our neighbors were here as well. So I know some of you were here for that, and some of you newer people have not been. So I guess you get to hear some of the same information again. But I have a couple of things to show you that'll help me explain what our plans are. So we think that a natural thing to do, the natural business to do with this corner lot is Auburn Market. And it'll be called Auburn NC Market because there are 2 other Auburn markets in the United States, one up north and one down south. But we think that that would be the perfect thing to do during this transitional period because it's always been a quasi-rural area and it's a special connection to Garner. And there's a lot of development going on around us now. It's all starting up. On this site map here, west of East Garner Road is several acres that has not been purchased yet, but I know that it will be, and it's probably going to be multi-unit families. And Auburn Village has already started around the corner, and I know it's going to just continue to go in the Auburn community. Now, this is on the map as Auburn, North Carolina. When I was a little girl, I was born and raised there, so is my brother. And our favorite thing to do was to go to that corner store and get some candy. It was a wonderful place with a potbelly stove, with people sitting around the stove. I have so many great memories. We want to recreate something like that. We're not going to be building another store, but a farm market, an open-air farm market, a very charming open-air farm market, not a flea market. And we probably won't sell fireworks there either. I think would be a perfect transition for now. It would be a place where the community could gather. We're thinking, one of our ideas is to have a courtyard area. And we bought this from the Poole family. You may know Lonnie Poole, his brother Leland owned this property and ran the store. And he has passed on now. His son Wayne passed on not too long ago, and his wife and Wayne's brother sold us this property just about 3 months ago. They could have sold it for a lot more, and we already have developers calling us about it. But our intention is to do this now. We think this would be the perfect thing for now. And whether we develop it ourselves to something more progressive later, or whether or not we sell it, at this point we don't know. But we think this would be the perfect thing to do. My background is in marketing, advertising, and public relations. I have about 20 years of experience with advertising agencies and marketing groups, and I was Barry Partlow's first marketing director from the year 2000 to 2006. He owns all of the agri-supply stores. They have 8 of those in the Southeast, and I did all their merchandising, all of their advertising, all their media buying, all their PR, their mail order catalog, and all of that. And now I'm a stay-at-home mom. I had children in my 40s. But so I think it would be the perfect family business for us. My parents are in their 80s. They purchased the property because my brother and I thought it would be, and my husband, we thought it would be a great opportunity for us to do something really special for the community there and, you know, have a nice small business. So we decided to call it Auburn Market, and my brother has already built me a sign, and if you don't mind, I'll show the public here. And then I'll pass this around. Lots of logo ideas, but this is just one of them, and we thought that we would give it a nice, charming rural feel. We already have the parking bumpers up there because Nancy Poole gave us the original bumpers that were with the store. She had them tucked away, and we pulled those out, and Robbie Ashley put those in for us. So we also have plans for a privacy fence, the courtyard, seasonal produce. It could also be Christmas trees. It could be pumpkins. It could be some baked goods. There's a lot of firewood, lots of things. Whatever needs the community has is what we would like to do. I would probably be in the position of leasing these properties instead of being a retail salesperson myself. The farmers market, the North Carolina farmers market, rents 300 square feet for $20 a day, blanket. That's what they do. And I think that we are going to do about that same thing. And I think there's enough room there for a considerable amount of vendors. And this is a chart of how we might be laid out. This is just our considering that the town's vision is for it to be a community-type center, that's very much what ours is. And the Poole family has a lot of historical items from the old train station, the old dance hall, and a lot of the old historic things about Auburn that they have asked if they could incorporate into the property, so we might do some of that too. And I think that corridor from, Auburn-Knightdale intersection, East Garner Road going into downtown Garner is a great corridor to be developed in the future, and I think it would be a nice shoot from that corner to downtown Garner. Now that downtown Garner is having so much development, I think it could be a nice area between Auburn and downtown Garner. Oh, and food trucks. We thought about maybe a few food trucks could come as well.
Okay. Quite a thorough explanation, I think. Any questions for this applicant from the council? Starting with Mr. Dellinger, Mr. Vance. Okay, Ms. Behringer, none. Mr. Singleton?
No, but I will say that I've known Miss Ashley for many years. I won't say many like Mr. Dellinger said, but we've known each other since 7th grade. And see, when she talks about Auburn, east of that, which is now, I think it's a Wake County Sheriff's Training Facility, was the school that she went to as elementary school. A lot of folks that I've known for many, many years, including Crystal, went there. It was Auburn Elementary. And Auburn Elementary and the old Vance were twin schools. They were built and looked the exact same way. Gym and all that. The old gym at Vance is still there, but that Vance and Auburn were built the exact same way around the same time frame many, many, many years ago. I can say that for sure. But Auburn, as Crystal's alluded to, is a community that, there was a train station, the old Auburn station.
There was a post office.
Yep. So that history that time has changed. It's still rather rural, but those businesses all have gone away. But and Mr. Matthews mentioned about the old store called the Matty Moon store.
It was after Mr. Leland leased it to Matty Moon.
Yes. So that's what the old store was referred to. So anyway, the Auburn history is been around Garner for a long time.
Yeah. We'll let the two of you reminisce some more after our meeting tonight if you'd like to. That's fine.
Most people here don't know about the history of Auburn.
I understand.
And
That's
it
fine.
actually was a school and a community. It was actually a small
I've
community.
heard some of the history, yeah.
Thank you, Greg.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Matthews?
Yeah, one of these days I'll be old as gray and I can reflect on these things. But a great location, and with the traffic and growth going out there, I think it'd be nice for those people to have a local community farmers market in that area versus having to drive all the way out to Lake Wheeler Road. So I like what you're presenting here.
Thank you.
Thank you. I believe that's all the questions for you, and thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I'm afraid I have to inject a little legal comment here. This is a general use rezoning. It is not a conditional use rezoning or a special use rezoning. So the particular plans that the applicant has described are not something that the council can rely on. I say that for the record. This property can be used for any of the neighborhood office uses in the development code. So I say that for the record to preserve your the integrity of whatever decision you make.
Thank you, sir. It's the reason I like having you in that seat over there. Thank you. Okay, I believe we already heard from the other members of the public at the previous time, so I don't think that's an issue here. Are we ready for a motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we find Z 1905 partly inconsistent with the comprehensive plan and approve, and I move that the town council find that although the rezoning request is partly inconsistent with the Garner Ford comprehensive plan as detailed in section 5 of the staff report, it is reasonable and in the public interest and in the public interest because it will likely allow appropriate types of business and industry at the described location, which will provide opportunities for access to goods and services useful to the surrounding area, and it will support the development of North Garner. Therefore, I move further that the town council adopt ordinance 2019-4032 approving rezoning request Z 1905, and in doing so, also amend the town's comprehensive growth future land use map to designate the northern tract of the subject rezoning property to Neighborhood Commerce Center.
Thank you, Mr. Single. I believe a motion has been properly made. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Vance, I believe, seconded. Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposition, no, and there is none. Okay, thank you again very much. We will now move to the portion of our agenda where we will hear any committee reports. I'm not aware of any, nobody's made me aware of in advance, but are there any council members? And by the way, I will be working on committee assignments with the new members very soon, and we'll be in touch with you about some of those committee assignments, okay? Managers' reports. Mr. Manager?
You have the Garner info in the back of your packet, so if there's any questions about that, we're prepared to answer or get back with you.
Okay.
Other than that, that's all I have.
Thanks, sir. We'll skip the attorney reports for now. We'll go to council reports, and I'll start with Mr. Singleton.
Oh, gosh, you caught me.
Oh, you're not ready? Okay.
I wrote something down, I'm trying to remember what it was. There was a question tonight that one of our speakers, Mr. Dingy, asked a question about council meeting minutes, and I know that council meeting minutes aren't posted the next meeting because they have to be read. We read them when we approve them. Are we up to date? I think they're usually about 60 to 90 days behind because we have to approve them, correct?
Yes, and that's typically, I would say if we are behind, we are short-staffed in the clerk's office, so there's a possibility we are behind there. But I would just remind the public that the minutes are not the official part of me. They can look at, if they have other options to get the information, they can look at the video that's posted online of the entire meeting if there's information they would like to have.
And that's posted usually within 48 hours of our meetings.
Correct, that is correct.
Okay. I just want to make sure I knew
But we will.
I knew that minutes just don't happen because y'all have to read them, and then we have to read them, and then they have to get approved, and that's usually a 60 to 90 day cycle. This just doesn't happen in a few days.
It takes several weeks depending on meeting cycle and the length of the minutes and those type of things, so yes.
Just want to clarify. Thank you very much. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Matthews, I'll go to you next.
Not at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Berger?
The only thing I have to talk about is the Women's Club Christmas Tour of Home next Sunday, December 8th. I have tickets tonight. I will have them tomorrow night at the presentation from Adams about the Parks and Rec Comprehensive Plan.
Okay, Ms. Berringer. Mr. Vance?
No, I don't have anything, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, and Mr. Dellinger?
There's a Wake County Habitat for Humanity reception on Tuesday, December 10th to meet their new CEO. It'll be at the Wake Med campus. Be a good opportunity to meet the new CEO there. I had someone contact me about the sidewalk project. And I don't know the background, so I'm going to leave it to you all to figure out what the history of it is. That there was supposed to, at some point, there was talk of sidewalks on Woodland Road from Van Dorn to Brompton. I don't know if that's still in the plans or in the works, but they commented that they had heard that there were plans at some point to do that, and that's a route that kids walk to go to Van Dorn Springs. But again, we can follow up later to get more information on that. The only other thing is we have our Parks and Rec meeting tomorrow, but I'll probably bring up there too, kind of more information on Cloverdale Park. It doesn't seem to come up very often, and when I was doing a lot of walk into the neighborhood, there were people talked about Cloverdale, and it seemed a little neglected, but it doesn't come up very often in park plans, so hopefully we can address that tomorrow. That's all I've got.
Thanks, sir, and I'll be very brief. I see Mr. Johnson out there. Sometime back we'd mentioned, or I had, seemed like the long delay of the signal light at Avisboro and Timber Road. It appears to be set such that, of course, the morning rush traffic needs more time on the, I guess, the east-west side, but during the day, I think at one time it was maybe calibrated to change that light a little more quickly. I've had several people say, is there anything we can do? And I was going to see if you have any update on that at all, sir.
I do not have an update, but I have reached out to NCDOT once again, and I will follow up with them tomorrow to see if they have an answer for that.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. I
Yes, sir.
appreciate that. Okay. I'm going to recommend that we now go into closed session based on a need to consult with attorney regarding pending litigation, and I believe the site on that I have, Mr. Attorney, is 143 North Carolina General Statute 143-318-11A3. Does that sound right?
That
sir?
is correct.
Okay.
So moved for the statute as noted by the mayor.
Okay.
Any
Motion second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. All opposed, no. And okay, we will adjourn for now to go into closed session and be back at the conclusion of that. Okay, council's back in open session from a closed session. While in closed session, we agreed to enter into an agreement for an interim town attorney based on a contract that was presented to us. That attorney is Mr. Fred Baggett. We also discussed litigation that Mr. Baggett will take the lead on giving us additional information and guiding that process. Okay, I do believe before we adjourn that the town manager had one other item that he wanted to discuss.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Town Council, I just wanted to make a correction on something that I was answering earlier. As it related to the minutes, there was a concern about the minutes not being presented in a timely fashion, and I think I was headed down the line that wasn't the official town documentation, but it is. I was getting it mixed up with the website recordings and those type of things, but the minutes are the official town record, and according to a 1959 code, they are to be presented at the following regular meeting. I imagine 1959, they didn't have quite as much going on. That would pretty much not be possible. I mean, we'd be setting ourselves up not to make that. So at some point, I'm gonna recommend that we amend that. The length of the minutes and the complexity of the minutes these days is just not going to be able to turn those out that quick, and we probably have more meetings than they did back then also. So with that, I'd like to just be able to bring back an amendment to that that we think is reasonable.
That's for informational purposes?
Yes.
Okay. No action needed, right? Okay, any other items now that we're in open session, excuse me, okay? Just before we adjourn, I want to just say a word of, again, commendation to our newest members, and I almost include Mr. Vance in that, even though he's not new, but at any rate, thank you and congratulations and welcome aboard. We look forward to working with you. Having said that, do I have a motion that we adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor say aye. Aye. There's no opposition. Meeting adjourned.